Welcome back to the IBJJF Podcast. My guest today is Jake Watson, and today we're going to talk about the 2023 World Jiu-Jitsu Championships. The event starts Thursday, June 1st, goes through Sunday, June 4th. You can watch all the matches on Flow Grappling. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Danny. I love being on the IBJJF Podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Let's talk about the Worlds. There's so many incredible matchups. I thought instead of breaking down the divisions today, we could talk about some dream matchups or just some potential matchups that could be fireworks because there's a lot of them. So when you looked at the brackets and all the signups, were there any potential matchups that stood out to you as ones that could be really exciting?
Man, we had the opportunity right before this whole thing started, just chatting. I've known you for a long time, Danny. You're such a student of the game, and so I like picking your brain a little bit before we even do these kind of things, just because I like the way your brain works, especially, you doing everything you're doing with the IBJJF. But one name that stood out was Jonathan Torres in the lightweight division. There are a lot of matchups I'd love to see. Some of them have already happened before, some of them haven't. I think just seeing how he interprets competition compared to the new school, like people like Levi Jones-Leary, let's say Ty Rotolo, they're active movers. They move a lot of transitions. I feel like JT Torres is the kind of guy that if you make one wrong move, you might be done for the day. You might be you might get a body lock put on you, or you might get some pressure put on you that really just eliminates your chances in the match. We've seen that in both gi and no gi in IBJJF competition for him, but especially in the gi, I'm excited to see him make a return. We haven't seen him compete in the gi since
2019 Worlds was last.
Yeah, didn't he compete against Azaki? That was his last match. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to see him back. He seems motivated. I think that he was a name that really, really stood out to me. And then, in the article that you wrote, if you guys haven't seen that article yet, I highly suggest checking it out. Danny laid out a bunch of some dream matches that could happen, some hypotheticals, if you will, but they might happen this weekend. It all depends on how the draw falls. But Natalie Hibero versus Ana Rodriguez is certainly an interesting one as well. There's a lot. There's so many to go over.
Let's talk about JT because you mentioned it's his first time competing since 2019. He's back at lightweight. He originally signed up for middle, dropped down to lightweight. You got guys like Mateus Gabriel, 2019 world champion at feather. He's back in the lightweight division now. You got Jonathan Alves, multiple-time pan champion. Lucas Valenti, we talked about him before we started recording, had an unbelievable performance at the Brasileiro, so he could be a very interesting match for JT. He's got an incredible guard. Would love to see his guard go up against JT's passing. Of those three names that have been doing really well recently in competition, is there one in particular you'd like to see JT face off with?
Man, of those three names, I would say Jonathan Alves. Jonathan's the man to beat in that division. I mean, he's won pans. How many years in a row has Jonathan Alves won?
I believe he's a four-time pan champion.
He's a four-time pan champion at black belt already. So, and that's like all the years he's been black belt, I think. So seeing how JT goes about solving that puzzle is certainly very interesting for me. It's very appealing. I think that a lot of people have thrown a lot of tools at him, and who's been really successful and who was throwing some unconventional ideas at Jonathan Alves was Ty Rotolo at the World Championship in 2022. So I think that was obviously, the whole crowd erupted when that match was going on. And I think that, JT's the kind of guy that studies the game. I think he might be studying that match and see some of the things that Jonathan Alves struggled with. Of course, Jonathan's going to come in with major improvements of his own, but I would like to see that match. I would like to see JT Torres versus Jonathan Alves that would be really, really cool to see.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing about that match is JT was in San Diego training with Atos for 5 years before he went back to New York and opened Essential Jiu-Jitsu. And during that time, they were doing some cross-training with AOJ. They were still under the same banner. So he has spent some time in the training room with Jonathan Alves. And like you said, of course, Jonathan's improved leaps and bounds since he was a blue belt. That was probably the last time JT was on the mat with him. But at the same time, it's cool that they do have a little bit of history too.
Yeah, and Jonathan's the kind of guy that you can throw a lot of different techniques at him, and he's seasoned at this point. He's been in the spotlight enough to where nothing really rattles him. But as far as the new school game goes, he's right up there. He's keeping up to par with everything that everybody's doing nowadays, especially. But JT taking it back a little bit to like the old school. I think what we're seeing in jiu-jitsu, whether it's gi or no gi, people are seeing this shift towards actually using some of the older school techniques, let's call it. And things like double under are working beautifully. Common knee cuts are working great again. Just a simple idea of like getting up on a single leg is always effective. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I'm excited to see how JT Torres incorporates those solid fundamentals in the matches he's going to have. I mean, he's going to be going against people who are younger, who are just hungry in competition for their first, second, third world championships at black belt, whereas he's been around the block for a while. So I am definitely very excited to see that. And we got a lot of names in that division. We have Jackson the Guy, who I think is a incredibly underrated competitor. I think not enough people are talking about him. We hear a lot about Samuel, his brother. Sam Nagai has been immensely successful. He had that incredible blowout victory versus Isaac Deuterlane at the Pans in 2020 or 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been super high level. But Jackson, we haven't seen, the same sort of accolades as Sam, but I really think that he's the kind of guy that can have a breakout performance at any moment. That's where jiu-jitsu's at right now. Everybody's hungry and everybody's so good. This whole division, I mean, there's how many people? 31 people, and they're all nuts. It's really going to be a stacked world championship.
Yeah, you mentioned another match, and that was one of the ones that was in the article as well, Natalie Ribeiro versus Ana Rodriguez. And I think there's another person we could throw into that mix is Bianca Basilio. Of course, she's the returning world champion, so there's some interesting matchups there. Natalie Ribeiro, what's cool about her for the world championships is she's going down to featherweight. She had a lot of success as a competitor in the lightweight division, won a bunch of major titles, decided to come back down to feather. I believe she said it was the first time at featherweight since 2019 Worlds. So there's some new potential matchups for her, and Anna's kind of been doing really, really well at featherweight. She won 2 world titles at light feather, but she's won all the other majors at featherweight. So one of those matches was potentially Natalie and Anna. But if you think about that featherweight division, any other matchups that you'd like to see?
Man, there's some really great competitors, of course. There's also Margot Ciccarelli. She's very good. I think that, Natalie Ribeiro coming down to feather is very exciting. She has got so much heart. I think the thing that stands out to me most about Natalie Ribeiro is not obviously she's an amazing competitor, has incredible skill, great guard. She's very good at defending a variety of attacks and staying in the moment. So I think a lot of people, when they have to defend attacks over and over and over again, they have the tendency to want to I'm just going to go on the defensive for a little bit. She's still coming forward. And we saw that in her match versus Janaína Lebre at, I think it was Pans 2021. She's defending attacks the whole match, and she has a hurt knee. She's like not all there as a competitor, and yet she's able to pull through in the match. And I just thought that was so incredible. Like, just to witness that kind of heart out of a champion who's already a champion, right? Like, you're not fighting for your first title, but every title you're going for is like you're fighting for your first title. I think it's really exciting to see that. And seeing her make this move down to featherweight, I got to imagine she's really motivated. So I think that, yeah, Ana Rodriguez is a tough nut to crack. She is a very good competitor. We saw Janaína Lebre at the IBJJF Grand Prix do very good work against Anna, but that was like the first time we've seen a crack in her armor in a long time, right? And
she was going up in weight as well.
Going up in weight as well. Yeah. So, but she's challenging herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that matchup a lot. And you said Bia Basilio is back in the division too. Man, she's so exciting. And she's the sort of competitor who, there's competitors who, if they're up, and I like to use this example, if they're up by one advantage with a minute left, they might, let's just lock down. I think Bia Basilio is the kind of competitor that's like, no, we're going to keep on going forward because this is just how I grapple. And I think that's very, very exciting too. So I'm excited to see the returning champ, and I like all these matchups. It's hard. We ask these questions, and I could go on for a long time talking about the potential matchups, but it's very exciting stuff.
Absolutely. We got to talk about middleweight. We got Tyne Daubner coming back. Won 2 world titles. He's won every major title as a black belt now that he just won the Brasileiros. And a guy in his division that could potentially be an incredible matchup, Tai Ruotolo. I've had a chance to talk to a couple of people about this match already, and I think everyone's already getting really excited about the potential of this match happening. So can you talk about Tai as a competitor and what you think he brings to the table against a guy like Tyne Daubner?
Variety. I think the right word is variety. A lot of people in jiu-jitsu, they get accustomed to a certain style of athlete because we all compete against the same guys, right? When you're at the highest level, you're gonna fight in your career the same guys over and over and over again. You recently just did an article on Roger Gracie. Roger Gracie fought Shunji Ribeiro. Shunji, like how many times? So many times. Everybody has fought each other a lot. And so I think that Tai is the kind of competitor that you're never facing the same Tai Ruotolo. You're not going against the same tendencies. You're not preparing for the same attributes. He's always trying to throw a weird, and I would say weird because it's just different than the norm, set of attacks at you. And that we saw that versus Jonathan Alves. I don't think Jonathan was ready for like how unorthodox the match was. And you could tell because Ty was wading through stuff, moving around, doing stuff, unconventional defenses to lapel guard, getting out of 50-50 a certain way. It's different. I think Tynan needs to have something different thrown at him because right now, Tynan Dalpra has only looked better. He's only looked more dominant, and he is not even in his prime. Not even I don't even think he's close to his prime, right? He's younger than I am. I'm 25. How old is he?
I think he's about 22.
Oh my gosh. Like he's not even, that's so young for a champion to already be two-time world champion. Or is it 3?
2.
Okay, two-time world champion going for his 3rd at 22 years old. It's incredible. And so I think that what really makes this matchup interesting for me is I want to know, okay, how is Tai Ruotolo in his creativity going to approach this? Because, man, I mean, we saw what Tynan did to Andy Murasaki, who Andy's amazing. Like, Andy's an incredible competitor. I had the pleasure of witnessing his black belt debut. It's like the guy went out there and looked seasoned against seasoned competitors. And Tynan just, man, I think Tynan got taken down, but then Tynan swept and Tynan passed and Tynan submitted him. It's just, it's tough. And for that division, it's hard to pick against Tynan Dalpra. Like if you're a betting man, I think that betting against Tynan Dalpra is a, it's a tall order. But if anybody's going to do it in this division, I think Tai Ruotolo is a great choice. I can't see too many other people in the bracket just off, and no disrespect to any competitors. Of course, never disrespect to any competitors, but it's just tough to bet against Tynan Dalpra in this division.
Yeah, he's undefeated in IBJJF competition, 2-time world champion, won all these titles, and he's done so in really dominant fashion. But I think one thing that's interesting about Ty, too, is that this is his first gi competition since the 2022 Worlds. So he doesn't do too many gi competitions, so there's not quite as much footage out there of him. I know Guy Mendez and Tynan like to study their opponents and study Tynan's opponents, but there's not too much to study on Ty, at least in the gi. So do you think that could potentially play a factor?
What's funny is I think that this is, and then before the last Worlds was the Worlds before that. So I think that they barely ever compete in the gi. That could be part of what makes them so unorthodox in the gi. I think that is an advantage because Tynan is actively competing. He's going to all the big tournaments. And I didn't take that in consideration, Danny. That is a very good point. I think that because Tynan, one of the things that makes Tynan so dominant is his film study and how he does prepare for the athletes that he goes against. And it is kind of hard to prepare for Tai Ruotolo because you don't even have training footage, I don't think, of him in the gi. Like you just have what you remember, right? What you remember about Tai Ruotolo. And that, like I said earlier, you can't really go off of what you remember because you're going to get hit with something new. He's going to throw something different at you because those kids, Ty and Kate included, they're always evolving, and so is Tynan. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to come down to, I think, is Tynan having an off day is a huge part of it. And we have not seen him have an off day. He's an incredibly focused competitor. I don't know if he has off days. But what kind of Tynan Dalpra are we going to see? I think we're going to see the consistent, usual, amazing Tynan Dalpra that we always see. But Tynan's that kind of guy that he's interesting. It's an interesting match every time. And I think that is where Tai Ruotolo's chance in that potential matchup really lies is in if he can fluster and if he can throw something that Tynan hasn't seen before at him.
I want to talk about a potential featherweight matchup. 2021 world champion Fabricio Andre is back at featherweight this year, and so is 2022 world champion Isaac Doederlein. These guys almost fought at the Brasileiros. They've almost fought a couple times, but they've never actually crossed paths as black belts, or ever for that matter. So what do you think about a match between Fabricio Andre, who's a super exciting competitor, versus Isaac Doederlein, who just put on an incredible performance at last year's Worlds and at this year's Brasileiros?
I think that is a very interesting matchup. We saw, Isaac at the 2022 World Championships was like a tear-jerking performance. It was unreal to watch his run, really. Not just with obviously the crazy come from behind victory at the very end to win the title versus Diego Sodre. Sorry, I get the brothers mixed up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But not just with that, but he submitted Sam Nagai, which was big because, like we said the last time those two had gone against each other, it was really big for Sam. It was a big moment for him. With Fabricio Andre, that man is a firecracker. No one needs to be told that. They can watch one match and they can see that guy comes with a certain pace and a certain explosiveness and a certain aggression, and submitted Also, featherweight world champions Shane Jamil Hill Taylor at the 2021 World Championships with a flying triangle, right? It was like
Yeah, it was a
literally
triangle. Yeah.
a triangle off of a guard pole. So as far as that matchup goes, I think Isaac possesses a deadly enough leg lock, like that foot lock that Isaac Doederlein does. He's so good at getting it that is a very real threat in this match. It
Yeah.
is, because Fabricio Andre has been footlocked before in sort of a way like that. It really is important for Fabricio to avoid that kind of situation. I think that he's smart enough. Fabricio Andre has the cardio. He's in shape. And I think it's going to come down. It's going to be a close one. Like in that instance, I don't think it's going to end. If it ends in a submission, I think it'll end in a footlock for Isaac Doederlein, but I think it'll be one that ends kind of in points. Unless there's a crazy mistake happens on either end and one of them gets submitted. I think that's the one that goes kind of close, like down to the wire, because they're just so two styles that I think cancel each other out a little bit. Like Isaac is so good at locking people down. People can't really get explosive with him. He tries to do the bear and bull game, makes the footlock happen. And he's just a very smart, experienced competitor. And then Fabricio is very explosive, but he's able to play that slow game as well. So I think it's going to come down to the wire with that one, if I had to guess.
One match that I think would be really cool from a stylistic perspective is Janaína Lebre and Brianna St. Marie. Brianna just competed at the Brazilian Nationals, and she lost a ref's decision to Luisa Montero. Had a really close match with her, exchange sweeps. I believe the final score was 6-6, and she ended up losing the ref's decision. But she's obviously a world-class competitor. She's back competing in the gi more now, and she has a very classic game. She uses a lot of half guard, a lot of close guard, pressure passing, and Janaína is kind of the opposite. She uses more, I would say, quote unquote, new school techniques where she's using a lot of lapel guard, has some really unique submission setups from there. What do you think about that style matchup and how that could go?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Brianna St. Marie, obviously, in no-gi across different platforms lately. And it's really cool that she went to Brazilian Nationals. I love that she's putting on the gi. I think those are the most exciting athletes to watch, are those who dip in both worlds, right? Janaína, I think, is coming in very motivated. That was such a close match with Theon in the finals of the Worlds. It really was close, because even the call that gave Theon 2 points was a close call. And so it was just like all across the board. Janaína was fighting. She was hungry. Theon obviously had an incredible performance all day, all weekend. I mean, and I think that we're going to see a motivated Janaína to get that first black belt world title that she's been chasing. But what Brianna does, I think, is, or what they both do, is they're both sort of traditional in a sense. I think that Janaína uses more of the lapel guard and the knee attacks and stuff like that. But they both like closed guard. They both come from a traditional sort of jiu-jitsu background where Janaína trains at Gracie Humait, the HQ with Hedges Lebre. And that's, fundamentals are super, super important in that curriculum. I think that Janaína has a great understanding of those fundamentals. And so does Brianna. I mean, we've seen Brianna, I think she does like Kimura from close guard. And that's like,
Yeah.
you learn that like week 1 of jiu-jitsu, and she does it to incredible effect. So I think we're going to see some really, how does Brianna St. Marie deal with the lapel guard stuff, which she does, obviously. I mean, she lost a close match to Luisa Montero, and Luisa's amazing. But I think that it's going to be, how does she deal with Janaína's lapel guard? Because it is hard. Like, I've grappled with Janaína. She's strong, and her lapel guard's very hard to get past. It's actually hard to kind of unravel. So I think that's what it's going to come down to, is Brianna St. Marie, is she able to get her game going the way she wants to and sort of avoid Janaína? Because Janaína used to also be sort of just like a more guard, I think, and we didn't see too much passing because we didn't need to. She was really good at the lapel, and she was pull guard, get sweeps. So I think that we're going to see 2 evolved versions of both competitors. I'm really excited to hopefully see that. That'd be very cool to see.
I want to hear you talk about Lucas Pinheiro and Talison Suarez too. Talison won his first world title in 2022, started training at AOJ a few months before the Worlds, showed some really good improvements in his game. But Lucas at the 2023 Brasileiros, I think, looked better than ever. He went back down to rooster weight. I think it was the first time he was at rooster for about 3 years. I believe it was the 2020 Pans when he won gold, was his last time competing at rooster. He had 3 fights, 3 submissions, all chokes from the back. And he had that incredible match with Bebeto. I've been talking to a lot of people about that match recently, where he got put in the triangle, almost got submitted, gets out, takes Bebeto's back, and finishes the choke. So Lucas has been on fire. Talison, of course, we all know his level and how good his guard is. How do you feel about Talison and Lucas? And do you feel like this is more of a traditional guard player in Talison taking on a great top player in Lucas?
I think, okay, so I've heard a lot of people talk about Lucas Pinheiro as like the strongest smallest competitor they've ever grappled against. Like they say that he is just incredibly strong. And that speaks a lot to the Auto strength and conditioning program. I think that Taliesin Suarez, they call him Little Meow for a long time, but he really has grown into his own. He's got his own game. Seeing him win 2022 IBJJF Worlds was absolutely incredible. I think that I think Bebeto is somebody that's obviously Bebeto in the bracket is giant. It's a huge deal. I think Lucas Pinheiro, he's very good at locking things down. He's hard to get a game going on, and that's where his strength is gonna really lie, because he's got such a great base. He's a roosterweight competitor that almost grapples as if he were like a heavyweight in the roosterweight division. He's a very tight passer, very like on top. He makes sure that he has your leg in the right spot before he moves forward. It's just like 1 inch at a time kind of deal. So I think that's very impressive. I think if Talison's able to create an opening, it's going to be difficult to defend the back because he's just so good at creating the Brandon Bolo situations. He's got such great guard defense. I think it's a slight edge to Taliesin Suarez if I had to call it. But what the strength that Lucas has in the matchup is that A, he is a bit more experienced than Taliesin at black belt, and B, the fact that he is hitting a stride right now that's pretty crazy. Like him at 2023 Brasileiros obviously looked incredible. He was better than ever. And we like just talking about, being able to do both disciplines at the Nogi Worlds, Nogi World Champion as well. So he's obviously hitting a stride right now. He's feeling better than ever. Something happened in his training program where he's locked down, and I love to see it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Lucas Pinheiro does in this bracket, because he does have other gargantuans like Bebeto Oliveira. Obviously, we can't ignore that guy. Like he's champion material. We could be talking about a potential matchup between Taliesin Suarez and Lucas Pinheiro, and Bebeto could win the whole bracket. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of bracket we're talking about. So, but as far as this matchup goes, I think that we are going to see a little bit of the guard puller Taliesin versus passer Pinheiro. But Pinheiro could surprise us too. He's well-rounded. So what if he double pulls and Taliesin comes up? We'll see.
Another one I had in my notes that I definitely want to get your take on is Kaynan Duarte, Eric Muniz. Kaynan competed at the 2023 Europeans, 7 fights, 7 submissions, went up to super heavyweight from his normal heavyweight division. And I think it's fair to say that that was the best performance of his career as well. Used a lot of basic techniques, got to the mount, got to the back, got some chokes from there, a couple arm bars as well. Looked amazing. Everyone knows how good Eric Muniz is, 2-time world champion, won super heavy in 2021 and 2022. Just an incredible competitor with one of the best guards we've ever seen. How do you feel like Kaynan and Muniz would play out?
Oh, man.
Tough question.
It's a tough question. It's so tough question. You mentioned in the article that they're both 2021 and 2022 world champions. So they both have they were in different divisions winning at the same time, and now we potentially get to see them fight each other. It's like a super fight in a tournament. One thing that a lot of people do know, but if you don't know about Kaynan, is that he is an incredible student of the game. So Kaynan is an incredibly quick learner. He's a great student, and that is one of his biggest strengths that I don't know if a lot of people know about. Of course, Andre Galvão knows about it. When Kaynan goes in a tournament every single time, he does come with new tools. And it's not like he's replacing old ones. He's adding new ones, so he just has a bigger tool set. And that's why you see Kaynan get better over time. With Eric Muniz, you see the same thing. But Eric, obviously, we know him more for his guard, his lapel setups, how he's able to just be so crafty. It's seamless how he's able to, it seems from a tight position, turn it into lapel guard, and then he's sweeping you. And he's so big, like he's 6'5" or something like that. He's a gigantic guy. And he's so nimble. We've seen him in his match versus Nicholas Meregali at the 2022 Worlds. Like Meregali didn't look like he had the same sort of Meregali really wants to he tries to grapple in this sort of forward motion way, and it just couldn't do that versus Eric because Eric's very good at stifling that. And so Kaynan is going to have run into a similar problem if he's not able to wade through the same things. So all that to say, I think Eric obviously the biggest strength in this matchup is his ability to tie up Kaynan. Kaynan is very good at the same things. He's good at lapel guard and stuff like that. But it's sort of special with Eric right now, where it's a huge part of his game. We saw him obviously win multiple world titles by now. He has looked nothing short of impressive. Just really, really crazy stuff. I'm definitely very excited to see it. It's funny. Once again, I can't speak either of these athletes' praises enough because I'd have to have their entire list of accolades in front of me and cross compare. But as far as who I would give an edge to, I literally can't say because it's all about the day. Like Kynan is the kind of guy that could go out there and win double gold, and so is Eric Muniz. And if they run into each other, that might be the only reason they don't. So it's hard to call. What do you think, Daniel O'Donnell?
Kynan and Eric, yeah, it's kind of a toss up. I think it's tough. I feel like Kynan has done really well in the open class at Europeans, and I think going up to super heavy is going to give him a little bit of an edge in the open class compared to when he was cutting weight to make heavyweight. So
Mhm.
it's I don't know if I can pick a winner, but I think stylistically it's going to be cool because, like you said, Eric's game uses a bit more lapel, uses a bit more guard. Of course, he has great passing, great Toriandos on top, but Kynan's a little bit more traditional, like more advanced basics and precise movements. And I would give the edge in strength to Kynan, so that could potentially be a factor. Kynan's a really strong guy and uses that strength perfectly combined with his technique. But yeah, I think that one's a coin flip.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big point because Eric and of course all the Muniz brothers take their strength and conditioning very seriously. But Kynan has been, I mean, Kynan, if you haven't grappled Kynan, don't. He's incredibly, incredibly strong. And the fact that he's world-class technique, precision, accuracy on top of that strength is very annoying because you already can't defend the guard pass because he's too good at the guard pass, but then you can't defend it because he's stronger than you.
Yeah,
It's like,
he's very
all
strong.
right, why did I sign up for heavyweight?
So we talked about quite a few matchups. Anything else that stands out to you as a potential matchup, or any just matchup that you want to see that you haven't seen, or maybe you have seen it in a rematch you want to see too?
Man, it's tough. I'd have to go through. Let's see this because there's a lot of competitors. Like featherweight has 29 people sign up in it. I would like to see. I think Isaac Deuterlane versus Shane Jamil. I believe that one's happened already.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool because I think they're obviously both hungry for because there's only a handful of American Black Belt World Champions, right? And that's it's got an interesting story to it because if they meet in bracket, especially, I mean, if they met in the finals, it'd be insane. But if they met quarterfinal, whoever wins that is carrying the flag, So I think that's always a really exciting thing. Plus, both their styles. I mean, we didn't even get a chance to really talk about Shane too much, but what more needs to be said? He's an incredible competitor. And I believe he's taken a bit of a hiatus from competition, but now he's back, which is awesome. And so I think that's a really exciting matchup. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think Shane and Isaac is really cool stylistic matchup. Excuse me. I think both have really good guards. Isaac, you already talked about his footlock, which is dangerous in any match that he's in. Shane has an incredible lasso. So I would like to see some Isaac's passing against Shane's guard just because I like the way Isaac passes too. He does a lot of that leg pin passing where he'll pin one leg to the mat and go side to side, combines that really well with his stack passing. So I think that could be a really, really interesting little battle there between them. We talked about a bunch of matches today, all of them you had great insight on. Anything else that stands out to you? Any other divisions, any other matchups that you think would be cool to watch?
Man, so medium heavy is loaded. It is,
Yeah.
my gosh, you got Sergio Rios, you got Mateus Rodriguez, Andy Murasaki is at medium heavy, Gustavo Batista, Elder Cruz, Machias Luna, Francisco Lowe. Oh, dude, Francisco Lowe versus Andy Murasaki. So I said dude on a podcast, but Andy Murasaki versus Francisco Lowe would be stupid. It would be awesome. Can you imagine? That'd
Yeah.
be a good match. That'd be a good. Francisco Lowe's a super exciting competitor. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
stylistically, I think that's cool too. Cause like you said, Francisco Lowe attacks submissions, does a bunch of flying arm bars, flying triangles, and Andy's pressure is just ridiculous on top. So I think that pressure combined with that crazy athletic ability to jump into submissions from any position could be really, really interesting match.
Well, it's like that's not even half. I'm still going. There's oh my gosh. There's Rafael Paganini, Izaki Bayen's is in the division. I'm just looking at these. Lucas Gualberto is in the division. Danny, this is a crazy division. There's Bruno Matias, Servio Tulio. Hebamar in the division. Hebamar versus Izaki obviously is always fun because I think Hebamar has the potential. Izaki's really good at locking it down, but Hebamar I think is a crafty competitor. I always think he's I think he's been the kind of guy that can always beat one of the world class, and he's a world class competitor himself, but I think he's a guy that is capable of winning a world championship. He just needs to have his day. He's got to have it all locked in. So I think that would be fun. But there's just, I can't believe how deep this division is. Murillo Santana and Sebastian Rodriguez are in the division. That's almost unreal how stacked that division is. And with Andy Murasaki at medium heavyweight, that's just a crazy addition.
Yeah, great pick. I think those are going to be incredible matches. There's so many potential matchups at medium heavy that could be absolutely bonkers. So thank you, Jake, so much for joining me. Really appreciate your insight. That was really fun. Jake's going to be commentating the Worlds starting on June 3rd with the black belts and also June 4th. The event starts on Thursday, June 1st, runs through Sunday, June 4th. You can watch all of it on Flow Grappling. Thanks again, Jake. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you guys at the Worlds. Take care.